speaker.
Yes, I am. For those of you that had the joy of attending Robert Hubbell's in-person event at in Alamo in June, I know many of you are returning to hear what he has to say now. When he came in June, we had a different candidate. So we're really excited to see you today, Robert. Robert, for those of you that don't know him or need to be reminded, he started his daily newsletter in February of 2017 after the election of Donald J. Trump, due to the fact that his family was in despair and he wanted to do something to help them through that troubling and terrifying time. But over time, he started sharing that daily newsletter with his friends and with his family. Today, not because of a miracle, but because of his steady hand and his amazing analysis and perspective, he has over 80,000 subscribers on Substack. And later on, I will put that link into the chat so that you can sign up and become the 81st through the and more thousands of subscribers. His keen analysis of the political landscape, which is so troubling to all of us, gives us hope and it gives us clarity. And so we invited him very last minute. And because of the incredible human being and person that he said yes. And he's here today. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Robert and stop sharing my screen so we can hear what he has to say today. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here. Can people see me? I think we would like to spotlight me. Not that I want to be spotlit, but okay, here I am. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. It was a great event when Jill and I came up to visit Commit to Democracy in person. We still talk about that. It was a great honor. I'm here today. I am going to speak for 8 minutes or so and then answer questions. I was asked just to speak about the state of the race a little bit, which I will do. For those of you who read my newsletter, you know that in my newsletter, I say that I'm cautiously optimistic about the state of the race, and I am. I would say in truth, I'm more optimistic than perhaps I write in the newsletter. But that's because in the newsletter, I try to be hopeful but realistic. And boy, do I hear from readers whenever I go too far in one direction or the other. So let me say that I think we are positioned well for the last week of the campaign. And you cannot imagine how important that is at this point in time. But let's recognize what an incredible accomplishment that is. We have gone through the most improbable presidential campaign in history. We could be in utter chaos. We could be engaged in infighting. We could not maybe even agree on whether or not the candidate that we picked is the right candidate. But the complete opposite is true. We have a candidate who's incredibly popular, who has run a nearly flawless campaign for which we can't take credit. But what we can take credit for is just the discipline that groups like Commit to Democracy have exhibited over the last 24 months of this campaign. The list of accomplishments that were posted are they're gobsmacking. And it would be astonishing in any election year for a group like CTD to have done that, not to mention the thousands and thousands of other groups that are doing the same thing. That would be astonishing. But to have done it in this year, you have helped us arrive safely at this moment as an organized, cohesive, unified machine that has a clear mission, which is to elect the first woman president, Kamala Harris. And I don't think we should take that for granted. Every time I speak to a grassroots group, I always start off by saying thank you, because people take you for granted. People dismiss you. And by you, I'm including myself. I mean, I think most uh, political operatives and professionals and pundits think it's just so cute that there are all of these grassroots groups out there, who are writing postcards and knocking on doors and that kind of thing. And then every time Democrats overperform expectations, they scratch their heads and say, what's going on here? How come we can't figure out why Democrats keep doing better than we say they should? Well, there are two reasons for that. One is the grassroots movement has been phenomenal, and we should take immense comfort from that fact alone. I don't want anybody to take false hope from what I'm about to say. We cannot count on Republicans to defeat themselves. But at the exact moment that you are at peak efficiency, peak dedication, peak output, Republican operatives are admitting to people now who are writing articles about this that in many of the swing states, they don't really have a ground game. They're doing mailers and that's it. And that's because there were some pigs at the trough in the Republican Party who saw a big pot of money and they shunted it off to their friends. And now they realize, oh, you can't just go out, snap your fingers like Elon Musk wants to do, get an army of people to go out and knock on doors and to do so with passion and commitment. So while we're organized, they're not. And that matters a lot because this will be a close election and it will come down to turnout. But that brings me to the second reason why I'm feeling good, and that is that I believe that the polls and the professionals and the operatives are completely missing the moment that this is the first presidential election after Dobbs. And all of these, I'm sorry to say, male pollsters out there cannot understand what this election means to 51% of the population that has been stripped of a fundamental constitutional right. And what they keep doing is they keep creating these models by going back to prior elections and saying, well, what did it look like when inflation was an issue or when immigration was an issue? And the one thing they can't do is go back to a presidential election where women were demoted to second-class citizens because it's never happened before. And I think everybody is going to be surprised and overwhelmed by the turnout among women. And it's hard to look at the turnout numbers because we're comparing 2024 to a COVID pandemic year. But there are very good positive signals coming out of the early turnout numbers, particularly with respect to the turnout of women versus men. And we know that as a group, women break for Kamala Harris and men sadly break for Donald Trump, which I guess I would add to the third point, which is women are more politically active. I wish that there was this more equivalence between women and men at this point in time, but just look on this Zoom, and it looks like every other Zoom, the women predominate, and they will be the ones who are more likely to go out and vote, which means that Kamala is more likely to win. So I think that those factors, that discipline, is going to serve us well. And I think this particular moment, this very day, is an example of why that discipline matters so much. It's hard to make predictions, especially about the future. Yogi Berra may have said that, maybe he didn't. But one thing that we know is that unexpected things will happen. And last Sunday, this Madison Square Garden debacle for the Republicans showed who they really are. And it finally is piercing the consciousness of Americans, of minorities within America who have been the subject of this vitriol by Trump for so long, but it all seemed to roll off of him. Well, all of a sudden, it seems like that's not true. It's not rolling off of him. And at the very moment that they're faltering, we're strong because of discipline, because you're organized, because you haven't given up, you haven't gone away, you're still here today. And I think, I'm starting to feel sort of more at peace with this election in the following sense. We have done absolutely everything that has been asked of us and more. And now we just have to let the election unfold. But there is nothing left on the field. I mean, certainly we have to follow through for the last 7 days, but we're positioned to do that. So we should all feel a sense of confidence and calm from knowing that we've done what we need to do to get safely to this moment, and all we need to do is power through the next 7 days. And if we can do that in a just and rational world, it will be a close election, but I believe it will be an election in which the discipline and the ability to take advantage of those, lucky breaks, the ability to take advantage of those in dozens of states will lead to a much larger victory than the closeness of the race suggests. So I will close here by saying, as I do in my newsletter, we really, honestly, truly do have lots of reasons to be hopeful. Doesn't mean we can give up. We can't be complacent. We can't leave anything on the field, but take that anxiety and turn it into confidence and calm and certitude that we're doing what we need to do. We're sticking on plan. We're being disciplined. And that's what wins elections. So let me stop there. I went 10 minutes, which is longer than I had anticipated.